I'm Jennifer, 42F, and I live with my two children, Ethan, 20M, and Nora, 17F, in a small 3-bedroom house on the outskirts of town. Our life hasn't been easy, especially since my divorce 5 years ago. My ex-husband, Mark, 45M, and I had been high school sweethearts. We got married young, had Ethan when I was 22, and Nora followed 3 years later. For a while, things were good. Mark had a steady job at the local factory, and I worked part-time at a nearby daycare center. But then, about 7 years ago, I started experiencing severe joint pain and fatigue. After countless doctor visits and tests, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. The condition made it increasingly difficult for me to work, and eventually, I had to quit my job. This put a strain on our marriage, both financially and emotionally. Mark started working longer hours to make up for the lost income, and we grew apart. Arguments became more frequent, often about money or my inability to keep up with housework due to my condition. 2 years later, Mark announced he'd met someone else at work. The divorce was messy and painful, but we tried to keep things civil for the kids' sake. As part of the settlement, Mark agreed to pay $250 per month for each child in support. It wasn't much, but combined with my disability benefit of $500 a month, we were scraping by. Fast forward to last year. Ethan had just finished high school and started working at a local supermarket. Nora was in her junior year and had a part-time job at a coffee shop. They're good kids, and when they saw how much I was struggling, they offered to contribute $220 each to the household instead of their father's child support. I was reluctant at first, wanting them to save for their futures, but they insisted. Mark agreed to stop the child support payments, saying the kids were old enough to make their own decisions. So there we were, a low-income family of 3, barely making ends meet with $940 a month. From this, I had to buy food, toiletries, and pay all the bills. It was tight, but we were managing. We had to make sacrifices, no cable TV, strictly budgeted groceries, and thrift store clothes, but we had each other, and that's what mattered. Then, last September, Ethan started dating Ashley, 19F. They met at the community college where Ethan was taking evening classes in computer science. Ashley was studying business administration and worked part-time at a local boutique. At first, she would stay over 2 to 3 nights a week. I didn't mind, it was nice to see Ethan happy, and Ashley seemed like a sweet girl. But gradually, she began spending more time at our place. By January, she was practically living with us full-time. The reason? She and Ethan have more privacy here with their own room, unlike at her parents' house where she shares a room with her younger sister. Also, our place is closer to both the college and our workplace. I didn't mind at first, thinking it was temporary. Ashley would often bring groceries or help with cooking, which I appreciated. But as months went by, I started noticing changes. Our utility bills were creeping up. The food in the fridge disappeared faster. The bathroom was always occupied when I needed it. Small things, but they added up. I started feeling it was unfair that I was struggling financially while Ashley was living here for free. She was using our utilities, eating our food, and taking up space without contributing anything consistently. I tried to drop hints, mentioning how tight money was or how expensive the latest electricity bill was, but Ashley didn't seem to take the hint. In April, I finally decided to voice my opinion on the matter. I sat down with Ethan and Ashley and explained that since they're both employed adults, they needed to start paying their fair share. I asked for $220 from each of them every month, which is still much less than they'd pay if they were renting their own place. I explained how our family budget worked, showing them the bills and the cost of groceries. I thought if they understood our financial situation, they'd be more willing to contribute. Ethan seemed uncomfortable during the conversation, but he understood where I was coming from. He knows I've been making sacrifices to keep our household afloat. Ashley, on the other hand, wasn't happy about it at all. She argued that she shouldn't have to pay because she's not comfortable in our house. Her main complaint? Our 2 cats, Whiskers and Mittens, and our dog, Max. We've had our pets for years, they're part of the family. Yes, our place isn't always spotless, and we could probably all pitch in more with cleaning, but I don't see how that justifies her living here for free. Ashley also brought up that she still considers her parents' house her main residence. She said she keeps most of her stuff there and only stays here for convenience. But from my perspective, she's here almost every day, using our resources. To make matters worse, when Ashley told her parents about our conversation, they backed her up. They insisted she shouldn't have to pay anything and have even encouraged her to come to their house for meals and showers. But she's still using our internet, water, and electricity while she's here. Ashley keeps comparing our situation to her parents' house, where she doesn't have to pay rent or do chores. I understand that different families have different rules, but I can't afford to support another adult in my household. I've tried to explain that our financial situation is different from her parents', but she doesn't seem to understand or care. This whole situation has created tension in the house. Ethan is caught in the middle, torn between his girlfriend and his family. Nora feels uncomfortable in her own home, often retreating to her room to avoid the awkward atmosphere. As for me, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, but I don't want to create more problems for Ethan. I want to know if I'm the asshole for requesting that Ashley pays her share as long as she's living here. Am I being unreasonable? Should I have approached this differently? I don't want to drive a wedge between Ethan and Ashley, but I also can't continue supporting another adult for free. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Thank you all for your responses. The support and advice I've received have been overwhelming. I showed this post to Ethan, and he agreed that I wasn't being unreasonable. However, things have taken an unexpected turn, and I feel like I'm in the middle of a soap opera. When Ethan discussed the situation with Ashley again, she got really upset. She accused me of trying to force her out and said she felt unwelcome in our home. Despite Ethan's attempts to explain our financial situation, Ashley refused to consider paying rent. She even brought up incidents from months ago, like the time I asked her to clean up after herself in the kitchen, or when I suggested she might be allergic to our cats because she was always sneezing. She twisted these innocent comments into evidence that I never wanted her here. Instead of trying to work things out, Ashley decided to move back to her parents' house full-time. This has put a significant strain on her relationship with Ethan. He now has to travel 45 minutes each way to see her, which is difficult with his work and school schedule. He's upset and feels torn between his girlfriend and his family. I can see the toll it's taking on him. He's quieter than usual, spends more time in his room, and I've noticed he's not eating as much. To complicate matters further, Ashley's parents called me last week. They berated me for kicking out their daughter and accused me of being greedy. I tried to explain our financial situation, but they wouldn't listen. They even threatened to tell our mutual friends that I was mistreating Ashley. It turns out that Ashley's father, Robert, 50M, and my ex-husband Mark used to work together at the factory. There's some history there that I wasn't aware of. Apparently, Robert blames Mark for him losing out on a promotion years ago, and now he seems to be taking out that old resentment on me. The call left me shaken. I've always tried to maintain a good reputation in our community, volunteering at the local food bank when my health allows and helping out at Nora's school events. The thought of people believing I'd mistreat a young woman is devastating. Ethan is now spending most of his free time at Ashley's parents' house. He still pays his share of the rent here, but I hardly see him anymore. When he is home, there's a tension in the air that wasn't there before. He's polite, but distant. I miss our easy conversations and the way he used to help me with household chores without being asked. Nora is upset about the whole situation and misses having her brother around. She's always looked up to Ethan, and his absence is hitting her hard. She's been having trouble concentrating at school, and her grades are slipping. I'm worried about her, but I'm not sure how to help when I'm struggling to navigate this situation myself. To add to everything, my ex-husband Mark got wind of the situation. He called me, not to offer support, but to criticize my handling of the situation. He suggested that if I had just gotten a job like a normal person, none of this would have happened. His words stung, reopening old wounds about my illness and inability to work. I know he doesn't understand how debilitating fibromyalgia can be, but his lack of empathy is still painful. I've been trying to keep busy to distract myself from the stress. I've started a small herb garden in our kitchen window, something I've always wanted to do but never had the energy for. Tending to the plants gives me a sense of purpose, and the fresh herbs are a nice addition to our meals. It's a small thing, but it helps. I never wanted to cause this much drama. I was just trying to make our living situation fair for everyone. Now I'm wondering if I should have just kept quiet and struggled financially instead of disrupting everyone's lives. The house feels emptier and quieter without Ashley and with Ethan gone so much. Even our pets seem to sense the change. Max the dog keeps waiting by the door as if expecting Ethan to come home. I'm torn between standing my ground on what I believe is right and fair, and trying to mend fences for the sake of family harmony. Should I reach out to Ashley and try to smooth things over? Should I just accept that she'll be here without contributing? Or should I stick to my guns and hope that eventually, everyone will see that I'm just trying to keep our household afloat? I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I'm not sure which path to take. Any advice on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated. Update 2: The situation has evolved yet again, and I'm feeling more conflicted than ever. It's been a roller coaster of emotions and events, and I'm struggling to keep up. Last week, Ethan came to me with a proposition that caught me off guard. He wants to move out and get an apartment with Ashley. He's been saving up for a while and thinks they can afford a small place together. While I'm glad he's taking initiative, I'm worried about how this will affect our family dynamics and finances. Ethan explained that he's been feeling caught in the middle of this conflict for too long. He loves Ashley and wants to build a future with her, But he also feels a strong sense of responsibility towards our family. He thought that by moving out, he could maintain both relationships without the constant tension. If Ethan moves out, we'll lose his $220 monthly contribution. This will put even more strain on our already tight budget. I've started looking for part-time work I can do from home to make up the difference, but it's challenging with my health issues. I've applied for a few online tutoring positions and even considered selling some of my crafts on Etsy, but so far, nothing has panned out. Nora is upset about Ethan moving out. She feels like she's losing her brother and is worried about how we'll manage financially. She's offered to pick up more hours at her part-time job to help out, but I don't want her education to suffer. Her grades have already slipped due to the stress of this situation, and I'm concerned about her upcoming college applications. To complicate matters further, my older sister, Karen, 45F, got wind of our situation and decided to involve herself. She showed up at our doorstep unannounced last weekend, full of opinions and helpful suggestions. Karen has always been the more successful sibling. She's a real estate agent with a big house in the suburbs and 2 kids in private school. She means well, but her advice often comes across as condescending. Karen spent the whole afternoon lecturing me on how I should have handled the situation with Ashley. She suggested I should have laid down the law from the beginning and not allowed Ashley to stay over so often. She even hinted that my illness might be partly in my head and that I should try harder to find work. Her visit left me feeling even more doubtful and inadequate than before. Meanwhile, Ashley's parents are still causing problems. They've been spreading rumors in our community that I forced their daughter out of my home because I'm jealous of her youth. Some of our neighbors have been giving me strange looks, and I feel like I'm being judged unfairly. Mrs. Johnson, who lives next door and used to always chat with me over the fence, now barely says hello. The situation has even affected my volunteer work at the local food bank. Last week, the coordinator pulled me aside and gently suggested that maybe I should take a break for a while, citing concerns from other volunteers. I was hurt and humiliated. Volunteering was one of the few things that made me feel useful despite my health issues. Ethan is caught in the middle of all this. He wants to support me and Nora, but he also wants to build a life with Ashley. I can see the stress is taking a toll on him. He's lost weight and seems constantly on edge. He's been picking up extra shifts at the supermarket, trying to save more money for the potential move. I'm proud of his work ethic, but I worry he's pushing himself too hard. Ashley has been notably absent from our lives, but her presence is still felt in the tension that lingers in our home. Ethan mentions her often, always with a mixture of affection and frustration in his voice. It's clear he's struggling with the distance between them and the conflict it's caused in our family. I'm starting to question my decision to ask for rent. Was it worth all this drama and potential long-term consequences for our family? Should I have found another way to handle the situation? The thought of Ethan moving out fills me with a mix of emotions: pride in his independence, fear for his well-being, and sadness at the thought of our family being further apart. As I write this, I'm sitting in our living room, looking at the family photos on the wall. There's one of Ethan and Nora at the beach from a few summers ago, both laughing as they build a sandcastle. Another shows the 4 of us, me, Mark, Ethan, and Nora, at Ethan's high school graduation. We all look so happy and united. I can't help but wonder how we got from there to here, and if there's any way to recapture that sense of family harmony. I'm at a loss for what to do next. Should I try to convince Ethan to stay? Should I reach out to Ashley and her parents to try and mend fences? Or should I accept that this might be the new reality for our family? Any advice would be deeply appreciated. Update 3: It's been 3 months since my original post, and a lot has changed. I wanted to give you all a final update on the situation, and thank you for all your support and advice throughout this journey. Ethan and Ashley did end up moving out together. They found a small studio apartment about 20 minutes away from our house. It's been an adjustment for all of us, but I think it was ultimately the right decision for them to have their own space. The day they moved out was bittersweet. I was proud of Ethan for taking this step towards independence, but it was hard to watch him pack up his childhood room. Financially, it's been tough without Ethan's contribution. I managed to find a part-time data entry job I can do from home, which helps a bit. It's not much, but every little bit counts. On good days, I can work for a few hours at a time. On bad days, when my fibromyalgia flares up, I have to take it easy. My boss has been understanding about my condition, which is a relief. Nora has been amazing through all of this. She stepped up in ways I never expected, picking up extra shifts at her job and helping more around the house. She's even started cooking dinner a few nights a week, experimenting with budget-friendly recipes she finds online. I'm incredibly proud of her maturity, but I also feel guilty that she has to take on so much responsibility at her age. We've had some good talks about the situation, and I've made sure she knows how much I appreciate her help while also encouraging her to focus on her studies and enjoy her last year of high school. The situation with Ashley's parents has somewhat improved. After Ethan and Ashley moved out, the rumors died down. I think people realized there wasn't much drama to gossip about anymore. Some of our mutual friends reached out to me after hearing both sides of the story, and they've been supportive. Mrs. Johnson, our neighbor, even came over with a homemade casserole last week, apologizing for her previous coldness. It's a relief to have some of the social pressure off, though I still feel a bit wary in social situations. My relationship with Ethan has been a work in progress. At first, he was distant, only calling once a week or so. But gradually, we've been rebuilding our connection. He comes over for dinner once a week now, and we're slowly getting back to a good place. These dinners have become a bright spot in my week, a chance for our family to reconnect and share news. Ethan's admitted that living on his own has given him a new appreciation for the financial struggles I've been dealing with. He's even offered to help out with some bills, but I've declined. I want him to focus on building his own life. Ashley and I are on speaking terms now, but things are still a bit awkward. She came to dinner with Ethan a couple of times, and while the conversation was polite, there was an underlying tension. She's apologized for her initial reaction to the rent request, saying she didn't fully understand our financial situation at the time. We're not close, but we're civil for Ethan's sake. I'm trying to see things from her perspective. She's young and was probably scared of the adult responsibilities I was asking her to take on. My ex-husband, Mark, surprised me by reaching out after he heard about Ethan moving out. He offered to increase his financial support for Nora, acknowledging that our household expenses haven't decreased much even with Ethan gone. It was a gesture I appreciated, and it's led to a slightly more amicable relationship between us. We're not friends, but we can at least have civil conversations about the kids now. My sister Karen has also had a change of heart. After seeing how we've managed through this difficult time, she's become more supportive and less judgmental. She's even offered to help Nora with her college applications, using her connections to arrange some campus visits. Looking back, I still believe I was right to ask for rent, but I wish I had handled the conversation differently. Maybe if I had explained our financial situation more clearly from the beginning, or had individual talks with Ethan and Ashley instead of confronting them together, things wouldn't have escalated the way they did. It's a lesson I'll carry forward. Clear communication is key, especially when it comes to sensitive topics like money. This whole experience has been a harsh lesson in many things: communication, setting boundaries, and the complexities of family dynamics. It's also shown me how quickly things can change, for better or worse. Our family unit looks different now than it did a few months ago, but in some ways, I think we're stronger for having weathered this storm together. I've learned a lot about myself through this process too. I've realized that despite my health challenges, I'm more resilient than I thought. I've found ways to contribute financially that work with my limitations, and I've learned to ask for help when I need it, something I've always struggled with. As for the future, I'm cautiously optimistic. Nora is excited about college, Ethan seems happy in his new place, and I'm slowly rebuilding my social connections in the community. Our finances are still tight, but we're managing. I'm even considering taking an online course in bookkeeping to expand my job prospects. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey. Your input has been invaluable in helping me navigate this difficult situation. To those who might be facing similar challenges, I'd say this: stand up for what you believe is right, but be open to seeing things from other perspectives. And remember, family, whatever form it takes, can be a source of strength even in the toughest times.